hands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to our guests. And as I said to somebody, we're going to let them go first. So I'm not sure who's going to take the lead. Is it David Velver, Paul Machad, or Dean Fisk?
Yeah, I'm here because I'm interested in learning more about it. And Dean had reached out to me originally, and so talking with Sean Kimball and Tim Slocum, they suggested this might be the best place to start to get some information to try to see where what the project is and program is and how it may benefit the town and may potentially be mutually beneficial. So thank you, Ann, and also Chairman O'Gurk for helping to facilitate this. And so with that, I'm actually here just more to learn more about virtual net metering. So I'll turn it over to Dean and his net metering people. Thank you.
Okay, good. Dean, you want to go next?
Yeah, I apologize for my screen not showing up properly, but I'm getting involved a little bit in some renewable energy projects, and I've partnered up with Paul to help me with some of these projects. And Paul is very versed in renewable energy and the virtual net metering that's associated with communities, municipalities, and I think that this could be helpful for the town of Cheshire in terms of what virtual net metering can do. And I'm kind of learning about this myself as I'm working my way through these renewable projects. So so I asked Paul to come in and discuss it with the town to see if it makes sense to move forward with some of these of this program. So if Paul wants to get involved with this, by all means.
Okay, that's good. And just so that Dean and David and yourself, Paul, realize the town of Cheshire does have 3 solar installations to date. There's the first and the smallest is the array on the top of the library roof. It's only a 5 kilowatt unit. It's been sitting there for like 5 or 6 or 7 years. The next one to go in was the landfill or former landfill solar array, which is roughly a megawatt, and that's been in operation for a couple of years. And we do have a net metering arrangement with that particular facility, and Dan Bombero can elaborate on that as we go along. But there are 5 meters that take advantage of the virtual net metering aspect of that program. And then the most recent, newest installation is the solar carport at the police station in Cheshire, and that's been up for about a year, I guess. And I don't think there's any virtual or any kind of net metering on that, but Dan, you can comment on that. That's pretty much
all behind the meter use.
Yeah, it's behind the meter, and it's there's a PPA with the developer. So with that, Paul, I think you could jump in and give us a rundown on what this SAM program is, and we'd certainly be open to any opportunities, but I just don't know if there are any or not. But I presume that you would be looking for new installations, but take it.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So my name is Paul Michaud. I'm an energy attorney. I worked at North Carolina for a long time, and I think I may have done work with Cheshire a long time ago, but I don't remember. I thought it was Cheshire, but on a PPA. But anyway, my firm, we focus exclusively on renewable energy. We've done about 30 or 40 megawatts in Connecticut alone for solar. We just got the microgrid approved for a town in Connecticut. So we do microgrids, fuel cells, solar. So we do all renewable. So what's happening is it sounds like you're familiar with a little bit with the old virtual net metering program and how it works and everything. And so that last year that program got fully subscribed, and the new program under the statute starts tomorrow. And so it's no longer the virtual net metering program. It's now called the SAM program. And that just stands for state agricultural and municipal. And it's the way they're doing it at the Connecticut Pure is they're in Eversource is they're integrating that into the auction program. The new, it's called NRES auction, where we're no longer doing net metering in Connecticut. It's more buy all, sell all, and netting. It's kind of a little more complicated type project type program than in the old days. But so under the SAM program, it's kind of the same as virtual net metering, where you are allowed 5 beneficial accounts per meter for solar system. The big difference in the new program is, for example, and it's a good change, is, for example, Cheshire, you're allowed to now aggregate all of your meters throughout all your municipal meters into one beneficial account, up to 1,000 accounts. So, for example, New Britain's doing that right now. They've consolidated their entire city into one beneficial account, and you can do that here. And even if you have solar, the idea is that's fine. It's really the usage that you're not that you're still using on your accounts. So solar is great if self-generated or anything that you use to self-generate, but whatever's left over, you can all aggregate that. And I'm just making up, I don't know your load yet, or the way it works is under the program, you'd have to get permission from Eversource, and they would give you a whole. And through Dean, I also represent actually one of the biggest solar companies really in the world. They're out of Switzerland, and they actually built most of the solar in Germany and in Europe. And so through Dean's project, which is being funded a lot through them, we have 20 megawatts we're submitting. So there's plenty of solar for usage. And under the program, we would bid, like if we had and I'm just using this as an example. If you had a beneficial account and it was 2 megawatts and it's the high school, I'm just making up things, but all fire stations, all we would bid that in. And the old program, you would just get, it's similar to the old program in that you don't change your procurement practices. So if you have contracts with the competitive supplier, that all stays. This is purely a bill credit for basically adopting a solar system. So solar system puts a megawatt, for example, into the grid. It gets matched up with for example, your beneficial account, and you get, and the way it works is there's no PPAs anymore. In the auction, we say, I'm using an example. We bid 14 cents into the auction. We win. 10 cents would go to build the solar system, and the other 4 cents would go directly to your bill through Eversource as a credit for 20 years, or whatever the number is. And the way we're doing it is we're guaranteeing 20% off your generation rate for 20 years. So, because it's hard to say how much it would be, because we're going to be bidding competitively into it, and you have to win. So that is exactly the amount we're bidding yet. And if you don't win, you don't get VNet, you don't get the benefit. So, but we're going to be bidding in, so you would guarantee 20% off on your accounts for 20 years. That's the offer for the project. And just for example, the reason why we like to work with this particular solar investor is because they distribute their own panels, racking, and inverters. So they essentially buy it from their own subsidiary. So they're able to build these projects really competitively. And we submitted 9 projects in the last auction last year, and we won 8 of them. So if you do take advantage of it, make sure you pick somebody who can actually win the auction. Because if you don't win, you don't get any savings. I just throw that out there. So
can I pause for a second?
Yeah.
Before, because I'm going to forget my questions. All right.
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that new solar projects would be purchased or installed or developed? We can't work with the existing ones, correct?
Correct. It's all new projects.
Okay.
After 2020, after submitted interconnection after July 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you are working with a Swiss company, for example.
They're the investor. Yeah. And they're,
Okay.
yeah.
And so they would be what, the developer?
The developers are people like Dean, local developers who find the properties. And Dean has several. And he has an agreement with the larger solar investor to actually build it, fund it, get it done, because they have a whole construction team.
Okay, so who would own the asset?
At the end of the day, it will be owned by the investor, TreeTech Americas.
Not Cheshire.
No. So the benefit of the program is that Cheshire, there's no capital, you don't own it. It doesn't have to even, it doesn't have to be on your rooftop. It doesn't have to be on your property, even though there has to be an ownership connection under the new rule. We are submitting, I don't want to get it, but under the new rule, they're saying that it has to, you have to have an ownership interest in the property. Pure is likely going to change that through a declaratory ruling, but the way around that is you simply have to lease it for $1, and then it gets leased to the solar system. It's just a weird.
So does that mean that the project most likely would be located in Cheshire?
No, that's what it could be located in Chester, but doesn't need to be. But there's an extra.
I was going to try to phrase my question so that it came out like that. But if it wasn't located in Cheshire, Cheshire would have to show some kind of interest in the location that it's located.
Yeah, and it's likely going to change, but that's the way the rule is today.
Okay.
So what would happen is, say there was a project on Dean's property that he has control over. Cheshire would enter into a $1 lease option. That's all you need. And then that's the only thing you're going to document. It's really almost a document technicality.
Okay, now why is it specific to state agricultural and municipalities? I mean, There's no commercial, there's no industrial. It's all that. So obviously Cheshire's a municipality.
Mm-hmm.
If it's we also have a lot of agricultural businesses in town.
That can be combined with it, yes.
Yeah. So in other words, we fall under the umbrella of what this is trying to accomplish, right? We're in a state, we are a municipality, and we do have agriculture. But which of those three is pertinent here? I mean, is it just because we're a municipality?
Yeah. So the M in SAM is municipality. So that would be any Cheshire, any town facility, your school district, if you have a water treatment plant, anything connected with the municipality would fall under that.
So let's say we wanted to put a solar project somewhere at the wastewater treatment facility.
Yeah.
Just for that. All we would really have to do is find the space for it, right? And then Dean and the developer and the investors and all that, they take care of the design, purchase, the ownership, the maintenance. Is that true? Are we just acting as a host?
Yeah, so the difference, there's two ways of looking at it. For example, if you were to put a system at the waste treatment plant, you would be behind the meter. So you'd actually be serving the waste treatment plant. The purpose of the SAM program, and you can still do it there and build it if you had a lot of land. But, but the benefit of the SAM program is you don't have to be connected to a facility. It could be generating anywhere and be virtually benefiting. For example, a town building that doesn't have a rooftop or enough land. But yeah, you can also do it at the waste treatment plant. Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because there's a lot of land. I mean, we could put, there's a lot of land all over town. But I guess the point I was trying to get to is we act as primarily a host for whatever the project looks like. Does it have to, is there a minimum size for the project?
No. There's
could it be carports? A lot of carports?
Yes.
Or no?
Oh, yes. And under the new program, carports are actually, they have a special preference. They're given a 20% preference because they're trying to incent carports, and they are a little more expensive to build, obviously.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so carports, absolutely. Yes. Ground mount, even rooftop can be done V&M. Really any form of, structure. But the landfills, brownfields, and even carports have preferences under the bidding. Like you get an advantage for bidding into it for that.
Yeah. When you say, I didn't make out what you said about the carports, some kind of a 20% something, but it didn't come clear.
Yeah, so what they do is for certain technologies like carports, or if it's on the landfill, I think it's 20% too for the carport. What happens is if you bid, the number you bid, Eversource will see that as 20% less than what you bid. So you know what I mean? So you can actually bid, your bid looks lower than what you're actually bidding by the percentage of the preference.
So we bid 10 cents and they treat it as though it's 8 cents.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right. I'm just trying to make it easy. Okay, so keep going. I'm interested.
Yeah. So if you, for example, if you had a lot of land at your landfill, at your water treatment plant, yeah, I mean, you can oversize it. And again, I'm not familiar with your property, but for example, or what you have at the water treatment plant. Usually they have a pretty big load there anyway. But you can build. For example, you could build a big solar system there, or even a large fuel cell if you're interested. If you have gas, oversize it, serve the facility, and the rest of the output of the project could go virtually to your other facilities. So you could actually have almost like a central facility.
Right. Yeah.
Which would give you an advantage, right? It'd almost be like a central town facility, or even a regional facility. So, I mean, that's the purpose, but you could go behind the meter, access can go into the grid.
Okay, I get it. All right. Did you want to keep going, or do you think you've pretty much presented it?
I think that's most of it. I did do a generic presentation I can send to you later, but it just kind of lays it out in more detail. But but that is what the program is in essence. It's a competitive program. Again, we can consolidate your accounts, and we have plenty of solar systems and fuel cell systems. You could. There's enough out there where you could have 100% of your accounts covered virtually at 20% discount. I mean, every single account in town can be and that's what's really the neat change that I got to emphasize: the ability to aggregate all of your accounts. So you could literally be 100% like solar, and that's a big change from the old program.
But in order to aggregate all the meters into one beneficial account, do you have to be a participant in the program?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't-
exactly. You do.
Okay. Okay, all right.
And
That would
you
mean
don't
you'd
have-
get one bill.
What, I'm sorry.
I said, would that mean that you would get one bill? That would be kind of
They're
advantageous.
working, yeah, they're working that out through Eversource now. I'm not sure how they're going to handle that on the bill. It's allowed under the program. Like I know, for example, I mentioned New Britain. I know they're doing that. That's their big goal, right? And but in some towns, for example, I'm working with a town where their school district or their board of ed is a little different than their municipal. They're a little more like independent, so they're kind of aggregating in two places. They're doing the schools in one aggregation, right, group, and then the town buildings in another. And it's different. I know it's different in every town, but in that town, they want to do it that way. So there's different ways of doing it. It's not all.
What if your energy supply, electric supply, is not Eversource, but it's a third party?
That's fine. So under the program, you keep your current contracts. So you keep your competitive supplier. The program is actually a credit on your bill. So you pay your bills, you don't change anything with your competitive procurement. You actually are basically adopting the program to help incent the development of projects.
Sure.
So it's a bill credit.
Okay. Sounds too good to be true.
Yeah,
It gets oversubscribed every single year, like
Yeah.
it will this year. If
I don't mean it that way. I don't mean it to say that it sounds suspicious. It sounds like it's so easy that why wouldn't we do it?
well,
There's some downside to it.
yeah, that's a great comment, because what happened 2 years ago, I did, and I have in my presentation, I should have sent it, and I will, but we did 3 megawatts and for a city of Bristol. And they actually went into a special city council meeting because we had the same talk, and they actually went into a special meeting to approve the contract. And I have them in my presentation. They're now all built, the projects, and serving a bunch of their schools and stuff. So
I think we spoke and actually invited somebody to an Energy Commission meeting several years ago, maybe 2 years ago. The company was out of Hartford, and they were talking about a project in Bristol. David Gavin or Walt Gajewski, do you remember who that was? There was a.
was it Vergy?
Yes, very.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are two entities. There are 2 large projects in Bristol. There's our project, the Tree Tech, and then there's Vergy. So they did it with them too. After we did it first, but they did it with them too.
That's a similar project, a similar idea. Yeah.
Exact same program. They're trying to fill they're trying to be 100% solar too in their town. So they've been same thing.
Yeah, right. Dan Knudsen, what do you think about this? Is that a picture of you or are you live?
It sounds great.
Where's Chris?
I got a question.
Who, Dave? Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
So basically, somebody puts a whole bunch of solar arrays in the town of Cheshire, and it generates power, a certain percentage of our consumption. And we still get a bill from our utility company, and we get a 20% discount of the prevailing rate as established by Eversource and the state of Connecticut every 6 months or a year, but we get 20% off of that. And that's a yearly thing. It's not a guaranteed 20% of the current rate or something. It's the rate agreed to by the state and Eversource negotiated for that year or 6-month period.
That was the old program, and you would like, that's how Bristol did it, and you get locked in. The way, so it was an automatic rate. It was rate, you used rate 30 as the default rate. Here in the bid, it's a little different. We have to bid in a number now, and it's the amount that we bid. It's not an automatic default rate. So if we bid in, like, for example, 14 cents, which we don't know we're going to bid yet, so don't go by that number, but and we win, the guarantee is whatever we win, your credit will be equal. The credit you get will be equal to 20% of a savings in the form of a credit to your
guarantee for how many years?
20 years, locked in.
At that rate, like right now, our agreement with whatever it is now, Solar City, Tesla, whatever, is 8 cents a kilowatt hour for 20 years. And
fixed. It's a fixed 8 cents,
yeah,
and that's fixed. So what would happen here?
What would happen here is, say we win the bid, it's 14 cents. You would get allocated the amount of money, and it's the way the credit works. It's based on, and this is another change from the old program. It's based on all your kilowatt hour related charges. So that's generation. It's some of the distribution charges. If it's 20%, it's based on your kilowatt hour charges, not any fixed charges. Those stay the same. But the amount of credit that the solar company would give you would be contractually guaranteed to always be 20% less
of the power cost or the delivery cost. Right now, we're paying about, at least consumers are paying about 65% of their bill is related to non-energy type of stuff, delivery.
So it's based on the kWh. So whatever is driven by a kWh charge, distribution or generation, as long as it's got the kWh, the more usage, the higher it goes. That's the amount that gets credited.
Okay, so that would be both combined bill. That's delivery and whatever's Eversource charges plus wherever they source their energy from. So if you bid 14 cents, and like next year, does it stay at 14% cents, or does it go to 16, 17? It's 20% of that.
It's
increase.
It's the same, because when we bid in, you win. You get it's a 20-year tariff, so it doesn't change.
Okay, and you handle all the investment of the placement. Now, who decides where to place these things?
The solar company. So you could either, again, you can put them in your town, and a lot of towns like that, or some mix them up. Some towns don't like solar in their town at all for whatever reason. And it doesn't have to be in your town, but if you have town land, that's like a double win if you want it in your town. But yeah, it would be, the project would be developed and designed by the Tree Tech, the solar company.
So what would be the advantage of using our property versus somebody else's property?
The only advantage for using your own, if you do want clean energy within your town, some towns like that, right? Some towns don't. They don't have the land for it. But the advantage would be you'd get, like, our projects, even though they're technically tax exempt, we pay taxes. So you get a tax, you would get a personal property tax payment plus your and then there could be a lease. The less you impose on that part of it, the better the bid would be. But you could take advantage of that. Other than that, I mean, that's really the only benefit. I mean, I know towns, they actually prefer to have a solar system somewhere else and take advantage of it. But again, it's different for every town. So, but if you have your own, for example, if you have land next to a water treatment plant, you could serve two purposes. You could serve the treatment plant with and then oversize it and put the rest into the rest of your town.
I mean, let's talk about the waste treatment plant. About 67% of the energy from our solar array at the megawatt solar array at the Townville goes to that one site.
Yep.
What happens with that situation? I mean, that would still happen, right?
Correct. Does not change. The remaining usage will go into the metering or be served
Distributed other facilities.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So that's what's nice about the program. Everything you have, you keep. It adds on to it.
So if somebody comes in from Switzerland or wherever,
Yeah.
and looks at our town, and basically I think it would become to educational facilities or town properties or roofs in town or free space in town, and does an assessment of what would be beneficial to them to put solar panels down, say, and then you come up with a bid after doing that. A bid to whom? Who are you bidding to? The state of Connecticut?
It's through it's the Eversource is the administrator as the utility. So they are administrating the auction for the next 6 years for their service territory.
Okay. Now, how many competitors do you have?
There's a lot. Probably there's probably about 7 or 8 like serious competitors. The solar industry is consolidating. Panels, the bigger companies now have, the project, there's the soft costs, right? There's the labor costs, and none of that. I mean, it is what that won't get any lower, but the equipment cost is where you can bid lower if you have access to cheaper not cheap, but less expensive equipment. And that's where the larger players, for better or worse, are getting the advantage because they buy in bulk. And they're able to take advantage of the investment tax credit and put all the equipment in safe harbor. For example, TreeTech, the company that we work a lot with, they have warehouses in Boston and in LA.
I assume they get about 80% of their stuff from China.
No, their equipment is mostly from Hanwha, I believe it's South Korea.
Oh.
And, yeah, I don't think they do China. It's South Korea.
And okay, I mean, supply chain issues are not going to help the bidding process at this point. But.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we were delayed on our Bristol project by like 3 months because the equipment was sitting on a ship off Long Beach. It's been getting better, but you're right. That was definitely an issue earlier.
What's the overall timing you're talking about from, say, to do business with you to have something in place? Yeah.
So it's sounding like you're interested in putting the solar on your own property, town property.
Let's say that's the case. Yeah.
Okay. If that's the case, I would have the civil engineers out there before Friday, because we would have to work really fast to do our civil desktop analysis and put in the we have to put in the interconnection application. That'll have to be done before you submit the bid. We can do it. We're getting really tight here, but it can be done. It can be done.
What are the deadlines, and how many auctions are there, let's say in 2022?
Yeah, so this year, the only auction in 2022 is this one coming up. And the deadline is like March 4th. And then that's the only one this year.
Yeah.
And then the next auction is next year. They're going to have it every 2 years. So it'll be next February and next June. But this year it's only one.
March
It's
4th.
early March. Is the deadline.
And
So it's
what
not
would
much
have to, what would have to be submitted in that bid,
We-
let's say?
So the minimum requirement, for example, if you went forward with like one project or whatever, would be we'd have to have the interconnection application on file with Eversource, not approved, but on file and paid for.
Yeah.
We along with the it's called the SLD, the single line drawing. So and that paid for, and then the beneficial account list from the town, because you need to figure out which accounts you want assigned. And then if it's on your property, that's it. That would be it, actually. And we would do the rest.
Yeah. Okay, I need to go back because I don't have a firm grasp on the benefit. So this 20% has got me confused a little bit. So it's not like a PPA where you have a guaranteed 8-cent purchase price for 20 years. Or maybe it is, I'm just not getting it. Compare, contrast the PPA that we've got, which is 8 cents fixed, versus this new program. Let's say we're talking about the exact same installation. It's a 1 megawatt installation at the Cheshire Dog Park.
Yep.
Or formerly FM. What would we do? And make up a number, 14 cents, 15, whatever is easy to take 20% of. 20 cents.
Yeah, we bid 14 cents. We pick, we get under the auction, you get to pick the rate, and it's usually rate 30 for commercial.
Okay.
So that rate would apply. We guarantee 20% off that. So you're actually getting a lot more than 20% off your bill. You're getting 20% off that default rate. But if you have a really good competitive price that you're already paying, it's actually more than, it'll be more than, it can be theoretically more than what you're, more than what you're actually paying competitively. I say 20%, we say at least, because it's really hard to really nail it down, but we want to make sure it's that you get a minimum off whatever you were paying your bill, you would have paid. We're saying default rate that we pick, but if you've got a really good deal with your competitive supplier, that 20% off the default rate may be actually even greater if you're paying a smaller amount to your competitive supplier. You know what? It's, you know what I'm saying? So,
I'm not getting it. I'm just not getting it. So what's the basis for the 20%? It's the rate 30 or rate 35 or rate 50, whatever it is, you pick a rate.
yeah.
And so where do you get that right out of the Eversource rate table, whatever that base rate is?
The rate is
12 cents, 14 cents, whatever.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, we can do it. There's two ways of doing it. You do it that way, or we say, there's two ways of doing it. And they both come out the same. You say, we want 5-cent credit on our bill for 20 years.
A 5-cent credit off of what's the starting point? Anytime throughout the.
Yeah, I know. I understand the confusion. It is complicated. It's not off of what you pay. It's off of the utility rate. It's off of, for example, rate 30, which is that's usually the rate they use.
On day 1 or day 10 or day
one through year 20.
So as their rate changes, and it's likely to change, it goes higher and higher and higher over to 20 years. Let's say it's 10 cents today and it's $6 in 20 years. We're getting the 20% off of the 10 cents today and the $6 in 20 years?
It's off of the day you enter into the contract. So it's 20 years off. It's 20% off of it. That rate gets locked in for 20 years. So say it's 16 cents.
Yeah.
When you win, right? It's impossible to fluctuate, right? Everybody would get confused. So what they do is they say, okay, you've won the bid, rate 30 is 16 cents based on their posted on their website, it's posted twice a year, whatever it is, that moment, that's your bucket.
Okay, and so and we get 20% off of the 16 cents,
Yeah,
which is 320.
which would probably be more than 20% off what you're paying if you have a good competitive deal.
So that 16 cents is fixed for 20 years.
Yeah,
And we get 20% off of it.
yeah.
Okay.
No, I didn't hear that. What I
Yeah,
heard
that's
is
what I just
we
heard.
get 20% off 16 cents, although we may be charged 26 cents in year 12 or something like that. Or am I wrong?
You're
No,
still getting, you're
it's
only
the
getting the
fall rate.
20% off today's rate, not 10 years from now.
Yeah, because nobody knows what the rate is over time, and there's no way, and they don't do it that way because it would be too hard for everybody to keep adjusting every year or really every 6 months.
Okay, so if it's 14 cents, we get 2.8, so 8 cents guaranteed for 20 years.
Yeah, you'll have that number, and again, because it is confusing and it's a competitive, we have to, it's competitive. We're trying to make it simple and say you're going to get 20% off that default rate at that point.
The thing that's confusing me is you say if we have a competitive supplier where we're getting a better deal than that 16 cents,
Yeah.
say we're at 15,
Sure.
then do we get 20% off of that?
No, that does not change. So we're saying 20% off the default rate. And if you're already doing better than the default rate, you're actually going to get more than 20% off what you're really paying for energy, because it's a bill credit. It's a credit. It's not a charge. So we don't want to overpromise. We don't want to overpromise, but we're saying you're going to get 20% off that default rate. And if you have a credit, as a credit, it's always a credit. So if you've got a 15 cent,
and then if we shop a better price and we use that credit, the credit goes further. I see what you're saying.
Exactly, good for you. So that's good, and so it benefits you. And ironically, the higher the default rate at the time you lock in, the more savings you're going to get over your 20 years. It's kind of almost perverse.
Okay, so the way I understand it, if you win at 15 cents, and 20% of 15 cents is 3 cents.
Yeah.
Is we get 3 cents credit off our yearly bills for 20 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, you'll get that rate. You'll get that rate at and again, it doesn't. It's just it's a credit. You didn't have to pay for anything. You didn't have to. You don't have any insurance. You don't have any. It's just basically a credit for saying we're helping to build this project.
Okay, so for that 3 cents a year credit, we're giving the company access to our properties for construction of their investment of solar panels, say.
Yes, and you're helping them. It's helping to fund the project, to build the project and make it economic. That's the whole purpose of the project, of the program.
So how is let's go out 5 years. You're out 5 years. The credit, is it still 3 cents or is it a percent of the tariff at that time?
You're locked in at the year one. When you win, it doesn't change now.
3 cents. So the more the tariff escalates, the less beneficial the deal is on a percent basis.
Tariff doesn't, so you lock in at the tariff. You lock in at that amount. It freezes for 20 years.
Yeah, but you're getting, let's say you get 3 cents. You get 3 cents day one per kilowatt hour, right? And then in 10 years, you're still getting 3 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Right. And in 20 years, you're still getting the 3 cents per kilowatt hour. And in 20 years, the price per kilowatt hour could be $100. You see what I'm saying? The percentage benefit is going to decrease the higher the purchase price of power goes. Right?
That's true.
I just want to see if I got that. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just that I'm just trying to understand the deal and that.
No, that's that's if for example, yeah, if for example, your competitive price triples, right? You're still going to get all that discount, but you're right. It would now at some point your competitive power would outweigh you, right? It would. We're guaranteeing you 20% of the default rate locked in. So
On day one.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a detail, and I perseverate on stuff like that, and I think.
No,
maybe
it's a good
Dave-
question though. I didn't think of the competitive side going up. So
So
Are we,
So,
so we're not guaranteed that much power or a certain amount of power? We're
yeah.
just,
So all the no good. Yeah. So if you put in an easy number, you put in a 1 megawatt solar system, and that produces, I'm trying to figure out what that would, 340 million kilowatt hours, whatever, right? And you have those beneficial accounts. All that energy for that's all yours. That all gets applied to offset your bills
at the 14 cents.
at the rate, yes, for 20.
So if the price goes way up, we still got, we're guaranteed that 340 million watts at 14 cents.
Well, at whatever is allocated to you. It could be if we do a 10 cent, the 14 cents would be split, right? Because you got to pay for the solar system. So if 10 cents goes to pay for the solar system and Eversource gives you the 4 cent, and we would figure it out what that would be between the town, right? Based on, again, getting you the right discount, but the 4 cents would always go to you for the next 20 years that solar system generates, and basically virtually displaces the energy at your school, for example. You would always get that for 20 years.
okay. We have a pretty full agenda tonight. We got to move along, but I liked listening to this proposition, but I'm not sure. I mean, David Belliver, there's no way we're going to get this done by March 4th, right?
I was gonna raise that question of that because, I looking at the timeline and, obviously figuring out exactly what we would cover, what would be, part of this plan. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So I appreciate all the questions that people have been asking because I think it's an interesting concept. I'm trying to figure out, for example, things like, well, okay, do we have to be involved? Like, does it have to be on town property? Can it be on other property? Ultimately, however it sounds like, however the energy is generated, we can take advantage of it if we're part of the sort of the subscription, and part of this bid. But ultimately, I don't mean March is going to be tough. You'd have to, we have to go through this process. And then ultimately, I think whatever we entered into, obviously, is something that the town, probably Sean Kimball, the town manager, the town attorney would have to get involved. The town council is going to have to probably be involved in that as well. So I'm just trying to figure out from a timing perspective, that's less than a month away.
Yeah. So no, that's great. And what I came to this call. Well, there's two things. Because we already have projects, but elsewhere that are well being developed. So the idea was that you would apply them to your town. But if you want them in your town, that would take a little longer. And the way we've been doing it, for example, we just did it with them. Because of the timing issue, we entered into a non-binding LOI. So the town first selectman could sign it without, a meeting or anything. And then if we win, then they can take it to their town council. So they didn't worry about it. Like if we win, then they would vote on it. That way they didn't have to, because it's non-binding.
Cool question. In that case, then how does it, if it's non-binding, you go in and you're bidding a certain amount of subscribers or a certain amount of usage.
Yep.
And then for whatever reason, if you've bid in and then the town says, well, it was non-binding and we decided to change our mind and we are not going to use that energy, how does that impact your bid?
We would withdraw it because number one, we're hoping most towns will want the savings because it's not costing them anything. And if it doesn't, we have enough projects where we would just rebid it next year, the next auction. So, because it's different, because we have projects we're building anyway. In this situation, and you can do it both ways. You can have some on your land. That would take longer because you haven't developed it yet.
Right.
But we have about 20 megawatts that already are developed and they're almost ready to be built. And if we can get the subscriptions, that's great. If not, we're going to defer it. So that's why we can go non-binding, not put any pressure on you. But if we win, and then you can take it to however it gets approved within your town, you know, do you want the 20%? And then at that point too, you would know exactly. We would have an exact amount, a dollar amount too, which would be helpful. You'd have, it would be exact at that point.
So I'm still trying to figure out exactly how this, ultimately how it saves the money and how much money it saves over time, and also how it plays versus, the project that we have at the dog park, there's a certain rate there and how much that energy is going in. And then obviously this would potentially cover everything else in the town, but that, correct?
Correct. Whatever's already self-generated stays. But if you were to do again, a non-binding LOI, it'd be no pressure, there's no commitment. But then when it was time for you to go through your decision process, you'd actually have a number for it. You could make a better decision.
Get you. Well, Rich, I know, and I know you have a busy meeting here for the rest of the agenda, so I appreciate it. But I appreciate this information, and I think this will be interesting. I mean, Rich, maybe we'll have to figure out how ultimately how we'd want to go from here. It's Dan as well, if that's something if the town's interested in, and how this project's going to work. But obviously, we're probably not going to solve it tonight. But we probably will need more information from you. So you said you had a presentation. I think that would be helpful to understand, because even if we're going to go forward, we're going to have to get the town manager and everybody else on board as well, so that they understand it, where it's going and how this works. So I think any information we could get to them will be very helpful. Obviously, I'd suggest that they rewatch this video, but ultimately we're going to have to get, obviously buy-in from, the rest of the town as well.
Understood.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if this is the presentation that you're talking about. Can you see that? It came in our package.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about? Okay, so we have it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'd seen that, but I wasn't sure. If there was something else. Okay.
And I know you guys gotta go, but the only change in that presentation is there's no longer the 80/40. They've changed it to go. It's just pure KWH now. That's the one, and I don't think I have. That should have been made. That's the only change in that presentation. Because that's
well, if you want to update this.
Yeah, I can update it. And again, we can always look to the future too. And I'd be glad to, I'm glad to circle back, even if you're thinking the next round, no problem. Just I don't, obviously we want everybody to fully understand it. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
It's prop program. So.
The way I see it, if we're going to go moving at all in the short term, it's probably going to be that 20 megawatts that you've got squirreled away someplace. It's not going to be town land. There's just no way.
Yeah.
It would take us 4 weeks just to do a one line.
Yeah.
It's interesting. If you did do it that way and you decided to go town land next year, when you're ready, you could still do renewable and sell it to other towns and actually make income for the town. Just letting you know, some towns are doing that. They're actually, they're making renewable, but it's actually bringing income to the town. It's actually a good alternative. So
okay, so clear this up for me. Let's say, I think we probably want to take the next step. Maybe it's a baby step, I don't know. But it sounds like some of the things that need to be done is we need to update the presentation to get it right, okay?
Yeah.
We need to know more about how to do it by using other people's land or your 20 megawatts.
Yeah.
We'd like to see the LOI.
Yep.
So we can get that into the town attorney's hands and take a look at it.
Yep.
And I guess I'd like to see some kind of an actual pro forma, something that says this is like what David just said. We've got to be able to understand the benefit. There's no cost apparently, or very little cost. But what is the benefit?
Yeah.
I think we're all hung up on this 20% and the 4 cents and the how. I mean, we probably all have a better understanding of it, but different understandings. My understanding is probably different from Dan Newson's or David.
No, yeah. What I can do is send you the form. Eversource will send us the accounts of your usage, right? You've probably done that before. And I can calculate the number for you. I can give you the number at that point. Eversource usually takes a day or two to give it to us. And we'll
we have all that. We have all of that in our portfolio manager.
Okay, if you gave me a copy, even that, I can give you a really good estimate of your usage based on your rate. We can do that. I can give you a number at that point.
Who can do that? Chris, Dan, or Dave?
I think it would be better if you, not you, but the presenter contacted Eversource and got those current numbers, because there's a little problems with the portfolio manager as far as updating stuff.
Okay, I can do that. It's just I have a standard form that we use, and under the program, you have to use the Eversource generated number anyway. It has to be their account report.
Sure.
So I'll get that out to you tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. Who should I send it to? This?
Dan Bonbaro, you going to be our point person on this? You got to put your microphone.
There you go. Yeah, I would be the point at the town to get it in the right hands.
Okay.
Generally, what they'll do is they'll submit it. It'll go through the finance department. They get the notice that somebody's been authorized.
Okay, and I'll attach the program rules too, so it's all.
Yeah, we'll run it past the town manager before we jump in. Waist deep at that point. We'd run it through the town manager's office to assure it's something that they'd want to give you the authorization on at this point.
Okay, very good. I'll get that over to you, Dave.
Now, there's no way you could really give us a true estimate of the benefit dollar-wise to the town, unless you know how much commitment we take as far as giving property to you for, or is that based on this, like the 20 megawatts you have available and stuff?
Yeah, I think the path we got to take is the one where it's not on our land, it's on somebody else. It's whatever else is already in existence, right? Your 20 megawatt.
That would be the fastest, easiest approach.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't bar you from
never going to go
anything.
anywhere if we do it the other way. Never, not in a million years.
Yeah, and you can always do it next year on your own, but it would serve a different revenue purpose.
Yeah.
You guys could still give us a engineering estimate of somebody visiting and assessing available properties and cost and stuff like that. Or
yeah, we'd be glad to come out. We do it all. We have a team set up. We'd be glad to come out and give you preliminary site plans of everything. It doesn't cost you anything.
And Mr. Chairman, can I just ask one last question here?
Sure.
Paul, how does this affect, for example, I mean, Dean approached me originally with this question and raised this and how this could possibly benefit the town. And I guess my question to you is, what's a developer's role in this as far as this project goes? What is this? Are you looking, if the town doesn't have the property and you're looking off-site, are you looking at developers, other people who have properties to host those energy arrays? Is that how it helps other third parties like developers?
we have, including Dean's site, we have about 20 megawatts already under site control and designed and ready to go. The purpose of this auction is that's how we can fund the construction and operation of the project. That's the whole purpose. That's the program.
Got it.
So we're ready. We just got to win the bid now and
Gotcha.
have partners, for example, Cheshire.
Right. Right. And by winning the bid, part of those proceeds go to fund the project and part go to help defer some of the costs to the municipality.
Exactly. That's your incentive to go to do the tour, is to get you savings. And
Okay.
that's the policy reason, the state
Gotcha.
policy. So,
Right.
Yeah, so I
So in
think
theory,
Paul-
it's a win-win for both people. For
exactly.
both parties. Okay.
And that's why it's so popular. It's so.
Gotcha.
Paul, you just need to be very specific as to what we need to provide you in order to get to the next step.
Got it. I'll send you a checklist and you'll have exactly what we need and I'll give
Okay.
you. Okay.
Okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else have-
You're welcome.
Oh, this
Go ahead.
sounds exciting. I'm glad we had this meeting tonight.
Good job.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Does
Thank
anybody
you,
else
Mr.
have
Chairman, for
anything?
allowing us to get in on this. So,
You're welcome. It's a very interesting concept and, you know, you guys have been in it for a while, Paul and Dean, probably it takes us a little while to get comfortable with it, but it sounds like it would be a good idea. I mean, it sounds like it. I just, you know, I think obviously it comes down to what is the benefit. If the benefit's just a little teensy weensy benefit and it's a big complicated thing, then it's not gonna fall. But, you know, if it has a meaningful financial benefit to the town, I think not only that's a great thing, that we ought to go ahead and do it. It sounds like that's the kind of thing that the taxpayers would like to hear us doing, but
I would think
Anyway.
one caution would be that if we're gonna sign up different town accounts to allocate it towards this project, it does mean that in the future we can't use those accounts for a different project on town land, maybe.
Well, in the way, just to back up, the way the project, every year you can change accounts. So you're not locked in for 20. If you want to change out account, like say you closed the school and you wanted a new school, you can change them. That's okay, number one. Number two, if you didn't change them and you wanted to do solar on your land, like, and you had more time and you got it ready for next year, you can still do it, but you would actually be allocating maybe to a sister town. But you'd still be contributing to renewable around you, but you'd actually be making income at that point, the town would. So you're right, though. It wouldn't be going to your accounts anymore, but maybe the next town over. But you would actually be helping them and bringing in revenue to the town. So that's the second benefit.
Okay.
it's interesting you should mention schools because the town is looking at constructing 2 new schools. This might,
Wow, yeah.
you know, we might be able to incorporate something like this into that.
right.
Would
But
it also include things like cogeneration or geothermal or some stuff like that?
Under the program, it's got to be a class. I mean, you can have that, but it's got to be a class 1. So it's either solar, hydro, wind, and then fuel cells.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, Paul, thank you very, very much for your explanations and all. Dean, thank you for bringing it to our attention. David also. We've got to move along.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank
Thank
you
you
for your
very
time.
much.
You
All
guys
right.
can drop off. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, that was pretty interesting, actually. We got to kind of get back into the agenda, and I'm kind of pressed for time too. So let's go to approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which was, it's called a special meeting. It really is kind of a proxy for the November 29th or 30th meeting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, corrections on the minutes from that meeting? What do we got left? Me, Walt, Dan, and Dave. Hey, Chris Smith, are you on?
I'm here too.
Oh,
I
I hear
doing kids' bedtime stuff, so I just hid myself.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I saw that Chris Smith had mentioned, he made in the chat that he had to drop off something about a sick child or a child not sleeping.
Yeah,
or something like that.
okay,
I think he had
okay.
to drop off.
okay. Yeah, I saw your boxes on there. I didn't see your face or anything else. I didn't know if you had any comments or questions to ask Paul, or how much of his presentation did you hear, Chris Smith? Are you still there? Unmute if you are. No? Okay. Approval of the last meeting's minutes. Anybody have anything? Because I don't. And I'm usually the only one who blabs about it. So anybody else? Can I get a motion to accept the minutes as written?
Make a motion to accept Dave Gavin.
Okay, everybody else is muted. So Dan Newsom, did you
I'll
wanna-
second it.
Okay, and there's no further discussion, right? So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good, thank you. All right. Item number 6. On item number 5, communications. I didn't put anything on there, but there are 2 things that I probably should mention. One, do you remember Joan Schechtman? Does anybody know Joan? Remember Joan?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Joan contacted me via email and said that she had heard about the possible joining or combining the Energy Commission with the Environment Commission, and she wanted to express her feelings that that wasn't a good idea, but that's probably water under the bridge anyway. But she did contact me to tell me that she didn't think that was a good idea. I also got I was contacted through Ann by a den leader for the Cub Scouts who wants to join our next meeting, February meeting, and talk about ways that the Cub Scouts can earn their merit badge in energy. So I'm not going to talk about that tonight. That'll be next month's meeting, but they did contact me, and I guess that's a form of communications. Ann, you have the guy's name, right? Matt. His name is Matt. You're muted.
The only one, is it Joan Schechtman?
Yeah, Joan Schechtman. Yeah, try to spell that. It's SZCH. I don't know. You know what? I will send you her name. I've got it. I just don't have it in front of me. She actually, she's a interesting person. She's an engineer. She's also an author, and she attended a whole lot of our Energy Commission meetings a couple of years ago. In fact, she had a better attendance than some of our commissioners at the time. So she had, and somehow or another, she kind of peeled off and did her own thing. And it was interesting to see that she still is following the what we're doing in energy. So, but okay, so let's jump into old business 6A, energy efficiency projects. Dan, do you have anything to update us on the I Heart My Home or I Love My Home? No, can't hear you. You got it. Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay, David, Gavin, do you have anything to add to the item 6A2 CHP at Cheshire Community Pool?
Nothing to add. I sent out a
Right.
I got
memo
a
to you
question.
guys. You know, the issue I got there is this thing's got to operate better than 90% to
Right.
meet its performance goals. And I don't know who's in charge of maintenance at the pool. I don't like to get involved in, trying to tell people how to do their jobs and stuff. So, but the system has to be optimized so that the primary source of electricity and heat is towards the cogen versus the alternate boiler. And
Right.
I don't know who's in charge of that.
How many
Well-
months were we above 90%? 3?
3 months, yeah, something like,
We averaged 59% for 2021. According to your numbers, Dave, 59%.
well, they're good numbers. It's based on the gas consumption, actually.
So it's 4 months we
Right.
were above 90%.
Right, and our proposal that from Aegis looks to be operating at 90+% to realize the savings that they proposed to us. And like the first 3 months of last year was abominable, and it's starting out bad again. I think, November was not good. And for some reason it stops. I don't know why it stopped.
So Dan Bombaro sounds like a project or a task for you to take on. What's going on at the pool? Why isn't it running at 90%? Maybe there's a good reason.
Yeah, I'll work to reach out to Sheila and reach out to Aegis Energy to see if they can't provide any backup, and perhaps invite them to a meeting at some point in the near term to get some explanation.
I talked to the sales engineer from Aegis about almost a month ago and told her the issue I thought it was, and she said she'd get back to me. She hasn't gotten back to me, but somehow, like early last month, I heard things like, well, they're putting in a new system for UV, et cetera. But it seems they're starting again, like in November, it was down to 31%, I believe. So, or November through, December. And why? I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're bringing it to our attention. Dan, you got to talk with Sheila. Who's Sheila's manager? Is it the
John Gowlick, the Rex director.
Who handles the maintenance there?
There's a staff member of Sheila's that's in charge of maintenance. However, Aegis Energy is contracted through the town for maintenance and operation of the equipment.
Well, somebody's got to, at least I've asked her, but I haven't heard back, is why is it not operating at 90+%?
Okay. And we'll try to find out.
And one other point, why I still got the agenda, is I think we got to get back to Yukon to update the energy manager. But there's still some issues like that area where we had negative energy consumption, and that's halted everything. And there's a number of sites that haven't been updated for a year and a half, and I just don't have the capability of doing that. So I think if they got back on board for some reason, I don't know if it's cost us anything to look at the whole thing again and make sure it's current.
Well, it's not Yukon's responsibility to keep that up to date.
No, but they did it last time, and who paid for that? Eversource, I thought.
Where's Chris? Who's
Dan was talking to those people.
yeah, but who's overseeing the portfolio manager today for the town of Cheshire?
Dave
For a
Gabb.
while, it was you. Dave, it was you for a while. Then I think you wanted to hand it off. We handed it off to somebody who left. And is Chris still, I don't know. We need somebody in charge. And I don't want it to be me.
Well, it should
Somebody
be. I
should
forget somebody was supposed to be updating the oil consumption, which is not a big deal. It's like
That was Chris.
1% or something like that. But the whole thing, the liaison with Eversource has to make sure it's current and make sure the corrections and the errors that are in it right now, and there are errors in there. If you look at the first page, you'll see that certain sites haven't been updated for a year and a half. And yet, if you go to the meters at those places, they seem to be current. So it needs some fine tuning. Somebody at Eversource has to fine tune the inputs and correct any errors. And they usually, I think, go to a subcontractor like Yukon to do that.
And Chris Smith did put a message in the chat saying I'm updated in the portfolio manager with the latest data I have. Dan Bombaro, if there is new stuff, please send it my way. is what he said.
Yeah, that's not, the issue is not updating, it's corrections of, like, the pool information is not current because of the errors that we had last spring regarding, showing that we have negative consumptions and stuff like that. And with that barrier there, it's not updating stuff.
I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Well, if you look at the portfolio manager and
Right.
look at the pool thing, instead of when it was last updated, it'll show it was like a year or so ago. Or certain meters are anyway.
But Dan is saying that Chris is saying that he's updated everything
Well, I
except for
think he's talking about putting the oil consumption in there.
Probably.
All right, well, we've been trying to find a portfolio manager for 5 or more years. And, you know, it's, I don't know, to me, it seems like it's not that user unfriendly, but once you know how to do it, it should be pretty easy to keep it up to date and correct the mistakes. And this negative consumption doesn't make any sense. It's not something that Eversource is going to fix. I don't think it's something that UConn would fix. Why would they? Why can't we fix it ourselves? What's making it come out negative?
Not having access to the system, one thing. And
We do have access to the system.
no, we don't, not all of us, but I still don't. I guess I could get it, but it's not going to allow me to correct a billing error of instead of using 10,000 kilowatts, we're getting credited essentially with 10,000 kilowatts, and they say we can't understand that, and it can't seem to get past that.
Well, isn't that just looking at the
Nobody's going.
bills?
I can't go to Eversource and start dictating how.
Yeah, but maybe we should take this offline. Dave, you and I need to talk about what it is that you're concerned about, and we got. I mean, in my mind, Eversource gives us the data to put in. They used to do that manually. Now it's all automated, right? So they give you the data. It gets in there somehow. I don't know who's putting it in. If it's Dan Bombaro or you, maybe Chris. Somehow
That's all automatically updated through their programming. Chris Smith
Okay.
probably.
All right, so
Sorry, yeah.
if as a result,
Ryan O'Grady, you might know better than anybody how that program gets updated. It's not something that's hand inputted. It's probably a back channel through a computer system.
Well, if you go to the Energy Star portfolio, and you say the overlook of the entire town, you'll see that some of the sites, there's like 28 sites, and you'll see that some haven't been updated for a year and a half. And yet you go to that site and look at the meters, and they appear to have inputs. But I don't know how it reflects on the overall project as far as your ratings and et cetera, how that first page reflects on it. I don't think that we're really looking at it. I think I'm maybe one of the few people that actually go to it occasionally and look at it. And, you know, I get most of my information from it, but I still think it needs a fine tuning, which I'm not capable of doing. I think you have to have a town person do that, either through finance department or public works or whatever.
All right. Dave, you and I, maybe next week, because I'm going to be away, but maybe we can talk. I'll get a better idea of what your concerns are, and we'll get on the portfolio manager. I've been on it. I have to say I haven't been on it though since last year, but again, it's who's got responsibility. I don't think it's Eversource. I don't think it's UConn. It doesn't. It's got to be somebody from Cheshire, and whether it's the actual Cheshire government side or the Cheshire Energy Commission. And, you know, government's got, you got people over on the school side that are putting data in, right, Dan?
I don't think anybody's putting data in except Eversource. And, you know,
No,
I
Eversource
don't
doesn't
think
put it into it.
anybody physically from the town is putting data into the system.
All the data, Eversource gas, Eversource electricity is all automatically input through Eversource.
Okay,
The last time that was corrected or updated was through the University of Connecticut, under contract with Eversource, I believe.
right. And we had we had a training session with Professor whoever and her
Thompson, I think
intern.
it was.
Yeah. All right, we gotta move along.
Okay, well, I'll see you in about, I'll call you in about a week.
Good. If you call me tomorrow or the rest of the week, I'm gonna be in Florida.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna care about
I
it.
hope it warms up.
It should be in the 70s.
Yeah.
Now there is a webinar. Hey, this is interesting. There's a webinar on Wednesday, the 9th of February, which would be what? Next week. And it's called Setting Performance Goals in Portfolio Manager. And I sent an email out on that. Maybe somebody could dial in. Sounds like a job for you, Dave, because you're retired. Did you get my email?
Yeah.
Yeah. Register for that, and maybe you can find. Well, I don't know.
Well, you know, I would like to see somebody in the group kind of take over some of that stuff.
Well, it was supposed to be Chris.
Getting ready to retire.
You get okay.
83, you know, I've been through the wars.
83, 38, what's the difference? Setting performance goals in portfolio management. I thought that was something that Chris Smith, wherever he went, I thought he was going to be taking over the portfolio manager, and that you and he were going to work together and see what new energy savings opportunities the town might be able to get out of it.
Yeah, and
Right.
and my suggestion was we got to get involved with the school subcommittee planning thing as far as these 2 new schools, you know, and there's some other stuff we could do, like this thing right now.
Yeah. All right. So item D1, opportunities for additional carports, PV arrays, charging stations, all of that could come out of the portfolio manager, right?
Yeah. Or some committee. Yeah,
Yeah, you and Chris Smith.
right.
You guys were supposed to be putting your heads together and working this out. Does anybody else want to join that committee? OG3?
I might be retiring this summer. I'll let you know in the fall.
I struggle to join any committees when I have already so much with the kids and my rotating shift work schedule. So, I mean, I don't want to tell you I can do stuff and then I'm not ever available.
Right. Okay. This next item, D2, Build Back Better. I don't know if that's something I picked up somewhere along the line, probably on one of those Google groups. Somebody was saying that this Build Back Better legislation has a provision for direct paying incentives for solar, to solar for municipalities and other entities that don't benefit from a tax credit. I don't know if that even is an accurate, true statement. I think it is. And if it is, does that have any bearing on what we talked about with Paul Michaud earlier? Because that's a solar project. I don't know. I just don't know the answer, but I just put it on there for, just to discuss it. Let's move along to the Quinnipiac Park bathroom renovation project. Dan Bombero sent me some answers to my questions. And I think he sent a copy to everybody else on the commission. Yes, Dan?
That would be correct.
And what's the status of that project?
The project will likely be bid early spring. I wasn't able to attend the last PBC meeting. Unfortunately, that was last week. I was out sick, so
Is that in
I can't really
construction?
speak to whether or not. What was that?
Construction in early spring or?
Bid out for construction, so within the
bid
next
out.
month and a half. Yep.
Oh, boy. So does that mean that it won't be constructed until late spring, early summer, summertime?
Depends on the availability of materials and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize that it's not a heated building.
no.
So and he says there's not enough electrical power for instantaneous water heating. So they want to put in a tank. And won't that freeze? It's not, the building's not heated?
They
Or you-
winterize the facility.
They
It doesn't
winterize.
get used in the winter. Yep. So a
Okay.
lot of the bathroom facilities are seasonal.
Okay.
Therefore, they're not heated, and they're winterized after, I believe, the early November, in order to avoid any such conflict.
Right. Then he's saying that the lights and the HVAC, the fans are going to be on a switch, not a motion sensor, because odors and humidity. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't put the lights on a sensor.
I would concur with that. I wasn't at the last meeting. I don't know if they took any of those comments up at the last meeting, but that would be
Mhm.
something that could obviously be a simple enough change in design to include, should the commission wish to take that action.
Right. And I think that would be a good idea. And then you have a new roof, but no insulation.
Again, it's it's a seasonal use, unoccupied. It's
Right.
it's a cost that doesn't really provide a benefit.
Right. Yeah, okay, good. All right, so that's the update. And we've got the Chris isn't back yet, so he had, or was supposed to have something under item F. Do you have any update on the tree trimming, Dan?
Yeah, the Eversource will be coming back into town with a pretty aggressive schedule. I can get further information provided to the group.
How did we make out with the weekend storm in terms of outages and reliability? Do you know?
I couldn't speak to that directly. I would say that I think we lucked out in a sense of what we all thought this storm was going to bring for us, and I don't think there was any drastic impact.
Yeah, I think that the snow was light and fluffy and blowing all over the place, and it just didn't accumulate on trees and break the limbs and whatever. Okay, item H. Maybe Dan Knutson might be able to help with this. What's her name? Fiona Pearson sent out a note. I think everybody got it, but maybe not. They are interested in whether or not they can use whatever we've done with Portfolio Manager to help them reach their next. We'll have to submit something, I guess. I don't know when, but they're all subsets of Sustainable Connecticut. Obviously, we have a lot of benchmarking and tracking of energy use. We just talked about it a lot with the profiler, the Portfolio Manager. Can you get back to Fiona on that, Dan Knutson? Can you communicate with her and tell her that, or ask her what we could provide to her as documentation or some evidence that we are actually tracking our energy use in town, because that's what the Portfolio Manager does.
Okay.
Could you do that, please?
Sure.
And I don't know when the next round is, but she's got it as action item 7.1. I don't know how many action items she's got, but they're trying to go from bronze to silver. And they made the bronze with a little bit of help from us, and they want to help us to help them get to silver. Okay, school modernization, item I just put that on there just as a placeholder. The last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about how we could get involved early on in the school modernization process. I told everybody that I had had a lot of conversations with counselors and Board of Ed people, and I was told by Tim Slocum that it was premature to talk to Colliers because they don't have a design yet. They don't even have an architect, apparently. Yet they're going to go to referendum, or that, no, before that, they've got to submit some kind of information to the state of Connecticut for reimbursement. So I don't know what that content is. How much of it depends on just a concept, or is it, do you have to have detailed design? I'm not sure, but the state of Connecticut is going to want to see something in order to make a promise to give us whatever, 30 million, 40, whatever the reimbursement amount is. So as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm thinking that, and I'll believe Tim, he says it's premature to have a conversation with Colliers. He says that he will, and so does Sylvia and Nichols say that the council is very interested in having our commission participate in the process, but we're not the only one. There's a whole lot of other commissions, safety, and there's other environment. I don't know if the Environment Commission is going to do anything, but there are traffic studies that have to be done and whatever. So my understanding right now is that there's not going to be a referendum until November. At one point, they were talking about something maybe this spring, but who's reading the town council minutes? Hey, there's OG is back. Does anybody have anything to update that? I mean, Dave, do you know anything? Dan?
Right, that's my understanding as well. There had been some discussion originally, a potential of a referendum in late spring, early summer, May, April, May, June. But at this point, my understanding is that there will not be a referendum before the November, whatever that date's going to be, 2, 3, 4, whatever the normal election Tuesday of November is going to be for the state, federal elections the referendum is going to be on that at that time. So so I know there had been some hope or some discussion of doing it earlier before June, but at this point I don't see, there's no discussion of that, and I don't see how that would be possible from where we are now to getting to a referendum by then.
So what about this application to the state for reimbursement? How much detail is going to be necessary? That's got to be done in June, I think. It's only 4 months away. 5 maybe.
Right, and that's right. So with that has so that's part of it too, is getting all that information together and getting it to the state. And so that has to be done hopefully beforehand. I believe that has to be done by June. So at least it gets it on the state's radar screen for potential funding in the next cycle. That is because so it has to at least be on their their list of potential projects by that point, even though we may not adopt it potentially if it passes a referendum until November. I believe, if I recollect correctly, that it has to be on on the state's list of potential projects by a certain date, and then can be ratified at an election in November, but it has to at least meet a certain date to even be on that list of potential projects. If not, then, ratifying it in November just means it won't be on the list until the following year. So.
Right. So what amount of detail are we going to be giving the state for them to make a decision on how much of a reimbursement we're going to get?
Well, I must admit, I don't know all the details of exactly what has to go there as far as whether, all the details, even down to, what the Energy Committee can be doing on that and how much of that potentially. I know there's been a lot of discussion about if we're going to build these projects, then, they should, potentially have solar arrays on their roofs and a lot of energy efficiency built into these projects. So I'm sure there's going to have to be some discussion of that. But as far as ultimately the amount of detail, I believe is more tied to sort of the size and making sure it has certain criteria as far as the reimbursement. And it's tied to the amount of students and the square footage of the building and the cost of that. So some of the energy stuff isn't as some of that detail isn't as necessary to determine the reimbursement. And ultimately, the final reimbursement is going to be determined by what's actually finally built. Because what we start at, may end up not being completely exactly what happens, as things may change over the time. But ultimately, those plans will at least be so from those initial plans that go to the state, we'll have a general idea of what possibly will get reimbursed. But then ultimately, the final reimbursement will be determined by what's actually built and how that plays out. But in the end, some of that detail isn't totally necessary to determine how much of a reimbursement it's going to be.
Okay.
But it'll play some factor in there, but the vast majority of the reimbursement simply is the cost of the project and the size and the number of students and all that detail.
Okay, well, I've talked with Tim and Sylvia. I talked with Jim Jenks.
Yep.
This, I think, is the first time I've talked to you specifically about it, but the Energy Commission is of the opinion that we ought to strive, to the extent possible, to build a net zero school. And it's possible because other towns in the state have done that. A net zero school will probably, most certainly, cost more than a standard school. So first cost is higher.
Right.
But the life cycle cost will definitely be lower. So I don't know how you sell that to the public. That's the problem. And I think that's what Tim White is concerned about too. So we're going to come in with a little adder to say, okay, let's build a really, really energy efficient school. And not only are they going to choke on the price of the project as a conventional school, but they'll never take on the additional costs, right? So we got to figure out how to market
Sell that. Yep. No, absolutely. And I've had conversations with Tim about that. Tim White specifically. He's had other conversations with the town, and that's important. And I think that's definitely something we have to look at. I think, yes, you're right. It's going to add some cost to the project. And I believe that my understanding is that Colliers, when they're factoring some of those things in, that is being factored into their cost, at least as alternative items, like we can go this way or we can go this way. So that there is an alternative discussion on that very issue as to, we can do it a conventional way, which may be less, but cost more over time, or try to do a net zero school, which is, when we talked in our last discussion earlier about the energy and the virtual net metering, and that, you talk about the new schools, and I didn't want to obviously get into it too much at that time to prolong the discussion, but obviously some of those issues are going to be, those costs may very well be built into those schools. And so those projects may or may not be even in the consideration for whatever, if we were to do some kind of virtual net metering, those new schools may not even factor into that, depending on how they're built.
Yeah. We would like to see a serious consideration given to ground source heat pumps. We'd like to not use any natural gas if it's at all possible. In other words, heat pumps, reversible. I think there's an item down here. This is reversible central air conditioning. This is I don't know, $300 to $500 of incremental cost. That's probably not for a school. That's probably for a house.
Yeah.
But if that's all it is, it's clearly, yeah, it's going to cost more, $300 to $500 more, but it's going to save a lot over the life of the equipment. So I guess, you know, that all we want is people to consider these. We're not trying to force people to do anything.
No,
but we'd like
and
the
I get it.
opportunity to put it on the table.
Yeah, I think, you know, as you all are aware, you know, heat pumps are very expensive, but they're obviously less expensive when you put them in before as part of the project than trying to retrofit them into a project. So,
I mean, particularly if you're going to air condition these buildings, you know.
Right. Well, I think I mean, yes, both of the new schools, assuming that gets adopted, that all they will, you know, the plan is that they will have air conditioning. So that, yes, you could have the geothermal obviously act in both capacities, both heating and cooling. So, but yes, that's the plan. It's like, let's try, if we're going to build something, it better have air conditioning.
Remember when cars used to come without air conditioning?
Yes, I had one.
It was, yeah, you had to pay extra for air conditioning for the car. And now nobody would buy a car without air conditioning. And I don't think you can really buy a school anymore without air conditioning, but whatever. Okay, so just, yeah, I'm glad that you're still there and you're listening to us talk about this, because some of the commissioners were concerned that we weren't being listened to. I think we're being listened to, but
obviously I think there's a lot of great ideas. Well, it's obviously, as you mentioned, it will all become a balancing act as we figure out how we're going to go forward with this and get buy-in from taxpayers, but also create the better, if we're going to build those schools, the most efficient and best use of those schools is potentially worth the cost. So,
David, how can we make sure that the Board of Education is asking Colliers to give energy saving options such as geothermal, et cetera?
Right. Obviously, ultimately, I'm happy to have those discussions with them. And my understanding is that they are having those discussions. I know because Tim White is sort of leading that discussion. I'm sure it's a discussion they're having. I think ultimately, that might be the best. We can talk to them about the Board of Ed and obviously bring that to their attention at their meeting. I'm not sure which committee, which subcommittee of the Board of Ed is addressing that issue, but I know that there is also a town subcommittee that's working on that. So I will be more than happy to pass that along to Tony Perugini and Andrew Martelli on the Board of Ed side to make sure that as they're discussing it, that they're focusing on that issue as well.
Is the SMC still active?
No, the SMC, their sole function was to determine, give some, they're sort of disbanded at this point, and ultimately it's really a committee of the town, a couple Board of Ed members, a couple town council members, and town staff.
Okay. All right, thank you. Under new business, we have two reappointments, Walter and Ryan. I think that's true, right? You both accepted to continue to serve. Walter's still there. Where did Ryan go?
Ryan had to put a child to bed.
Yeah, I'm here to serve again. I think I'm going to retire this summer. So I'll have
You
more
can't retire
time.
until next January. Well, okay. Thank you for agreeing to extend your commitment. Cheshire Housing Authority. Lou, Nero? Yes, Lou Nero is on that commission and or authority, and he approached me a couple months ago. Wanted to know if there was anything that we could do to help them obtain a backup generator for Beachport. But I think he said that those units are individually metered. So I don't know how that would work exactly. But a lot of the people who live there have medical equipment that they require reliable electric power. So they're concerned that if there's an outage, that they could be affected. And the other
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I don't know. I do know I think you're right. I think that they are individually metered. I don't know, and I don't know this for a fact, but I know that there is a community center in the at Beachport, and so I'm wondering if perhaps that backup generator is to at least fuel the community center, so that if they needed a warm place to go, or if they needed to keep medication cool, perhaps there's a refrigerator in there that if they needed refrigeration for something of that nature. So I think, although it may not be for individual units, it may be for, I'm just guessing that perhaps it may be for the community center. So at least that there is a safe, warm spot to go that has energy and could potentially store medications in a refrigerator.
I think Lou told me that the community center has a small backup generator that's powered by propane. I think they would really like to be able to provide individual units with backup power. I don't know how that's, I don't know. It's here for discussion. I don't know any more of the details. Also, there's evidently they're going to build some new units on South Main. Do you know anything about that? 44 new units on South Main. I'm not even sure where that would go, but
can I say something on this?
Yeah.
A lot of the work I do for the company I work for, we do ResNet rating for multifamily, and you could build a very efficient multifamily unit for not a lot more money. It's really educating and coordinating the subcontractors, and there are rebates available for the owner if that's successfully done. So they should really look into doing that. I'd be glad to talk to whoever about the programs.
Why don't you contact Lou Nero?
Lou Nero?
Yeah, and you can get the information, or I could send you. I'll send you Nero's contact information.
You can easily, it's a great program, and I'll talk to Lou about it.
And for the 44 new units, they're looking at solar. They're wondering if solar would be an option. And I know that Eversource for a while had a community solar program. Maybe Dan Knutson, you know anything about that?
Not particularly, no.
Yeah, there was some kind of a program where community solar was something that came out about 2 years ago.
Were there just like two places doing it? It was a trial?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, I don't know if New Britain was one of them, right? No.
We don't see a lot of solar on multifamilies, mainly because most of them are metered as a unit.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find anything in that community solar. I don't know if it's still in existence. I do know that there's a new renewable residential program that just kicked off January 1. And I don't know if I could find any information on that. Let's see. No, I won't take the time, but there is a new program. It's just been introduced. I believe it's called the Residential Renewable Energy Program. And it has some of the complications that Paul was alluding to. There was buy all or take all, buy all, and it was, I don't know, I don't know if I sent that out to you guys or not, but I'll resurrect that and send it out. We talked about the reversible air conditioning, which is really a heat pump. Virtual net meeting, we talked about the solar roof lease program. I think that presentation was sent out with our minutes, right? Or with our package, right, Ann?
Yes.
Yeah, last page.
Last page, right. And that's something that the Green Bank is promoting. Seem to have lost my video.
It's underneath something.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Yeah, so the Green Bank is looking for participants willing to lease their roofs to solar developers. And the link there that I put in has all the information that you could want. Plus, that's where that graphic came from that was attached to our packet for this meeting.
I'd actually call them on this because for a solar
Yeah.
roof, what they're really looking for are like shopping centers or big projects.
Uh-huh.
They're not looking for a mom and pop type of thing.
How about Bazzutos?
Bazookas would be big enough. Yes, that's what they're
Yeah.
looking for.
So, yeah, I don't know. How would we get that?
I think their roof is already covered.
With solar?
I think so.
I believe they do have a large installation. Might be, if you recall, I think the Energy Commission awarded them
Right.
1 year.
Boy, you're good. Oh, wait, Dan,
Yep.
what a memory. Woo.
And we know that Whole Foods has something on their roof. And there's a few other smaller installations.
It is something that I can get this to the economic developer, see if
Yeah.
it's something that he can market, as it were, put it out there to some of the local larger business.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And that brings me to the end of the agenda. Is there anything else? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And is there, oh, there we go. Seconded by,
I'll second it.
okay, Walt Gajewski. I don't think there's anything else to talk about. David, thank you very much for participating.
Oh, my
Yes,
pleasure.
sir.
And thank you
Nice
for
to meet you.
thank you for having me on this agenda and helping me learn a little bit more about virtual metering, because when Dean contacted me, I had no idea what he's even talking about. So I'm
Okay.
glad got some. I knew it was solar. That's about the extent of it. So I thought I would try to bring it to somebody who might have a little bit more background in it. But I knew obviously eventually if we're going to go forward with it, it's going to come back to the council. But I'm glad we had an opportunity to learn, at least try to flesh it out a little bit and learn some more about it. So thank you for your time. I know it took up a large chunk of your meeting, and sorry about that, but I appreciate your time.
Okay, great. All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Yay.
Good. Thank you very much for your attendance.